Welcome to Law Talks, your guide to justice. Know your rights and empower your future.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're completely cracking the code to one of the absolute most important documents in Indian history. We are going to lock the preamble of the Indian Constitution straight into your brain. And no, we're not doing this through boring, mindless repetition. We're going to do it by uncovering the incredible historical drama, the arguments, and the intense debates hidden right there in the text. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. If I asked you to recite the preamble right now, just off the top of your head, could you do it? For most of us, rote memorization completely fails under pressure, right? It just looks like a giant wall of heavy, complex words. But here's the secret. When you actually understand the history, the arguments, the rejections, and the profound vision behind those exact words, you build a perfect, unbreakable memory anchor. You aren't just memorizing a script anymore. You're understanding the very soul of the nation.
To make this totally effortless, we're using a simple 4-part memory hack. Step 1, the source. Step 2, the nature. Step 3, the core objectives. And step 4, the status and adoption. That's it.
All right, chunk 1, the source of power. So the preamble famously opens with the words, "We the people of India." These opening words are incredibly powerful, and their DNA traces straight back to Jawaharlal Nehru's Objectives Resolution, which he actually introduced to the Constituent Assembly way back on December 13th, 1946. You see, that resolution wasn't just some technical draft. It was literally the moral compass for the entire document, boldly declaring that all power and authority of sovereign independent India are derived directly from one place, the people.
But actually deciding on those opening words, that sparked some absolutely intense debates in the assembly. Some members passionately wanted to start the whole thing with, "In the name of God." But get this, that proposal was actually put to a vote and defeated 68 to 41. Members argue that including God would basically amount to a compulsion of faith, which would violate the fundamental right to freedom of belief. Another member even proposed including Mahatma Gandhi's name. But this too was rejected. One member actually opposed it because he felt the drafted constitution relied way too heavily on the American Supreme Court and the Government of India Act. He called it a rotten constitution that shouldn't even be associated with Gandhi. So, we the people stood alone as the ultimate source of power.
Moving on to chunk 2, the nature of the nation.
Now, what's really interesting here is the contrast between the original vision and a much later update. On one side, we have the original 1949 text, which simply resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic. But if you look at the post-1976 version, it suddenly reads sovereign, socialist, secular democratic republic. So the nature of the state was explicitly expanded decades after it was first written. Yeah, those additions happened during the 42nd Amendment in 1976, which was enacted by Indira Gandhi's government right during the emergency. This amendment was so absolutely massive that it's often called the mini-constitution. It officially inserted 3 keywords into the preamble: socialist, secular, and the word integrity. Now, the framers had already built socialist and secular principles into the main body of the Constitution, for sure, but this 1976 amendment, it took those specific labels and moved them front and center right into the preamble itself. Let's step back and look at those heavy original words. Sovereign Democratic Republic. Sovereign simply means an absolutely independent nation. But forming this republic led to a massive historical debate over whether India should be called union or a federation. Maulana Hazrat Muani, who is actually the very man who coined the famous slogan "Inqilab Zindabad," strongly objected to the word union. He feared it would create this unitary empire, arguing instead for a federation of independent units just to guarantee provincial autonomy. However, the drafting committee dug their heels in. They insisted on union of states specifically to negate the right of states to secede, ensuring the nation remained completely united forever.
Okay, chunk 3, the 4 core objectives. The preamble specifically promises 4 things to the citizens: justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. And guys, they're listed in a very deliberate order. Justice comes first, specifically social, economic, and political justice. This was a direct, unambiguous mandate to dismantle centuries of social hierarchy, like the caste system, and to ensure fair wealth distribution. The logic is that only when you have justice can you truly enjoy liberty of thought and expression and equality of status and opportunity. And all of this culminates in fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of the entire nation. B.R. Ambedkar brilliantly captured exactly why these 4 objectives are permanently tied together. He stated, Liberty without equality produces the supremacy of the few over the many, and equality without liberty kills individual initiative. You literally just cannot have one without the other. They form this unified constitutional philosophy that drives India's entire democratic and economic development model. Finally, we arrive at chunk 4, the legal status and final adoption. Is the preamble actually a legally binding part of the Constitution? Well, the Supreme Court stands on this, completely reversed over a 13-year period. In the 1960 Baru-Barar Union case, the court flat out said no, ruling the preamble was just a guide, definitely not a part of the Constitution itself. But in 1973, in the landmark case of Ananda-Bharati case, they completely reversed course and said yes, it absolutely is a part of the Constitution. And by 1995, in the LIC of India case, they firmly reaffirmed this yes, cementing the preamble's vital legal status once and for all.
So the crucial point here is that 1973 Keshavananda Bharti decision. It was heard by the largest ever Constitution bench of 13 judges, and they ruled in a razor-thin 7-6 decision that while Parliament can amend the Constitution, it cannot destroy its basic structure. And where exactly is that basic structure found? It's reflected right there in the preamble. This monumental ruling basically protected the core values of democracy, secularism, and justice from ever being erased by elected officials. Talk about a total game changer.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the preamble functions today. You can't take the government to court just for violating the preamble alone, but it acts as the ultimate interpretive guide. It's like a constitutional North Star. Whenever there's a dispute about a law, the courts look to the preamble as the guiding light to ensure the government is actually treating all citizens fairly and upholding the very soul of the document.
Which brings us to the very last line, locking in the date of adoption, the 26th day of November, 1949. Now, while the Constitution fully came into effect on January 26, 1950, it was formally adopted on this November date. Today, this specific date is officially celebrated every single year across India as Constitution Day, or Samvidhan Divas, marked by school quizzes, mock parliamentary debates, and public readings of the preamble itself.
Constituent Assembly member K.M. Munshi summed it up absolutely perfectly when he called the preamble the political horoscope of the Indian Constitution. It's such a great phrase. It basically predicts the future of the nation, laying out the exact trajectory of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity that the country is destined to follow.
All right, let's lock this memory hack in right now. Step 1, the source, we the people, defeating proposals to include God or Gandhi. Step 2, the nature, sovereign democratic republic with socialist, secular, and integrity added in 1976. Step 3, the objectives, justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, Ambedkar's inseparable pillars. And step 4, the adoption, November 26, 1949, now officially celebrated as Constitution Day. Got it?
Armed with all those intense historical debates, the Supreme Court battles, and this handy 4-chunk structure, that giant wall of text isn't so intimidating anymore, is it? So I want to leave you with this final challenge. Using these stories as your anchor, can you effortlessly recite the preamble right now? Give it a try. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible history behind the rules that govern us.